This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good Friday afternoon. Welcome aboard. Winter weather causing problems. Correspondent Sam Brock.
A serious winter wake-up call, unleashing bitter cold and snow across nearly half the country. Near the Great Lakes, relentless rounds of lake-effect snow dumping more than 26 inches in the Buffalo suburbs, with even more on the way. While overnight, an American Airlines flight never made it off the ground in Rochester, New York after sliding off the taxiway. No one was hurt. This is dangerous winds and road conditions creating treacherous driving near Erie, Pennsylvania, and 30 vehicles involved in a chain reaction pileup south of Syracuse.
Demonstrations against immigration officials continue in Minneapolis. Correspondent Matt Gutman got caught in the crosshairs of a violent confrontation last night between the police and the protesters.
They deployed a bunch of chemical agents on this crowd.
President Trump now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act to quell that violence. Fox's Madeline Rivera.
The Insurrection Act will allow the president to deploy federal troops or federalize the National Guard to suppress rebellion or domestic violence. It was last invoked by former President George H.W. Bush in 1992 during the Los Angeles riots.
Border Czar Tom Homan says those who dox, harass, or intimidate federal officers will be held to account.
If you interfere or impede ICE officers, you just committed a felony. We're going to create a database. Those people that are arrested for interference, impediment, assault, we're going to make them famous. We're going to put their face on TV.
Meantime, more than 24 House Democrats are headed to Minneapolis today for a so-called field hearing on the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. President Trump continues to weigh his options in Iran. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
Only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that.
The Middle East on pins and needles to see how the president responds after thousands of anti-government protesters were killed by Iranian paramilitary forces.
All options are on the table to stop the slaughter.
Mike Waltz is the U.S. ambassador to the UN.
This is a regime that rules through oppression, through violence, and through intimidation, and has destabilized the Middle East for decades. Well, enough is enough.
Dr. Kanta Ahmed is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Regimes don't die overnight, but this is a dying regime. And if we fail to stand with the Iranian people who are being targeted by snipers, murdered in their cars, we have an unknown body count which exceeds 10,000, some say 12,000 already killed, then we will go down in history as not standing up for the dignity and nobility for almost 100 million Iranians who deserve better.
Several of our Arab allies have communicated to the White House that a bombing blitz of Iran would be unlikely to collapse that regime and may in fact spark more backlash in the broader Middle East. A strange occurrence happened at the White House yesterday. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado gifted her 2025 Nobel Peace Prize to President Trump. The Nobel Committee says that prize can neither be revoked, shared, or transferred to others. Another gambling scandal is spoiling sports. 20 players at 17 schools implicated in a point-shaving scandal in men's NCAA college basketball. David Metcalf is the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania.
The Department of Justice will step in to protect what is a sacred institution of American life. And that's what we're doing here today. We are stepping in. We allege an extensive international criminal conspiracy of NCAA players, alumni, and professional bettors who fixed games across the country and poisoned the American spirit of competition for monetary gain.
Metcalf says the transnational criminal conspiracy originated in China. Prosecutors allege the ringleaders targeted players on underdog teams by offering them up to $30,000 to ensure their team lost by more than the point spread. 2 former players at the University of Buffalo are among those facing charges. A month in, and Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is declaring the world's first social media ban for children a huge success.
Young people, instead of being on their devices during these school holidays, have been cycling around facilities, have been reading books, have been engaging with their friends and family.
How about that? Digital detox in the land down under. On December 10th, 2025, Australia became the first country in the world to ban social media for minors. Still to come on the Noon Report. For Friday, sleep apnea in kids, big day in Clay, and hunting rules in Pennsylvania.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. If you enjoy winter sports, pretty good weekend is coming up. We'll have forecast details shortly. We'll see you in 10.
All right, see you then. Thank you, Kevin. Let's check the stories making news where you live. All across New York and Pennsylvania, the divisional round of the NFL postseason kicks off tomorrow in Denver. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos will square off against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills for a spot in the AFC Championship game. Kickoff set for 4:30 tomorrow afternoon from the Mile High City. Dare I say it? Go Bills. Ground was broken this morning in Clay, New York on Micron's new mega campus. The project represents the largest private investment in New York State history, costing upwards of $100 billion over the next 20 years.
I see this as the new industrial revolution.
That's Claytown Supervisor Damian Ulatowski.
It means more schools. It means more houses. It means more opportunities of every kind. And there'll be people knocking on the door to say, I want to fill that spot. That's what excites me.
The semiconductor plant is expected to create 50,000 jobs and will roll out its first computer chips by the year 2030. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was on hand this morning for that groundbreaking ceremony. A 37-car pileup shut down Interstate 81 near Syracuse in both directions for several hours Thursday. Eyewitnesses say the weather-related incident made the interstate look like a parking lot. Tyler Hardy is chief of the Otisco Fire Department.
There were people, walking wounded around the highway. There were some wounded that the medical personnel attended to. It was a little bit chaotic at first.
7 people were sent to the hospital. 2 suffered serious injuries. 3 tractor trailers were involved in that mangled mess of wrecked vehicles that had careened off the highway. Lafayette Town Supervisor Bill McDonald.
The people in the community have been texting me, hey, I have a room tonight, I have food, all those good things. My hat's off to all of our public servants, troopers, the sheriffs, and first responders.
I-81 reopened around 8 o'clock last night after being shut down for 6 hours. An American Airlines flight veered off the runway last night while taxiing at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. The Charlotte-bound plane was carrying 90 passengers, including this woman from Pittsburgh.
Completely normal flight. I didn't even know that we had gone off the road, we'll call it.
No injuries were reported, thank God. The incident does not appear to have been weather-related, say airport officials. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's threatening lawsuits against ICE agents who make arrests at sensitive locations in the Empire State.
We should not be able to allow ICE agents masked and armed to walk into this child care center in search of a parent or one of our workers. Or going to a place of worship or a hospital.
The Trump administration is threatening to cut $100 billion in federal funding to New York on February 1st because of New York's refusal to cooperate with immigration enforcement efforts. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro made a pit stop in Wyoming County yesterday. He was there to tout the success of the state's new drug overdose reversal program.
No one should leave here feeling as though the job is done, because we're still losing 6 Pennsylvanians every single day, which is 6 too many.
Keith Smith runs a rehab center in Wyoming County. He says Narcan has been a lifesaver in the opioid epidemic.
It's almost like an inhaler. So when a person is experiencing an overdose, what you do is it goes right in the nasal.
800,000 doses of this opioid antidote were distributed in Pennsylvania last year, saving an estimated 11,000 state residents from fatal overdoses. The Pennsylvania General Assembly has just passed a new law that strengthens accountability for impaired drivers. It mandates stiffer fines and penalties for repeat DUI offenders. Bradford County District Attorney Richard Wilson.
Our legislators recognize the seriousness of driving under the influence offenses, of driving in an impaired state.
Wilson says the law gives prosecutors clearer guidance, supports victims, and helps keep Pennsylvania roads safer for everyone. Flu cases are climbing in New York and Pennsylvania. A fast-spreading strain of the flu has led to crowded emergency rooms and inundated doctors' offices. New York's health commissioner is Dr. James McDonald.
There's really three reasons why this flu season has been so severe. One, flu came early this year. Two, we then all gathered for the holidays. And three, the dominant strain right now, H3N2, just very contagious and causes more severe disease.
In Pennsylvania, the Lehigh County Coroner's Office says it's now testing in-home deaths for flu, COVID, and RSV to better track the spread of respiratory illnesses this winter. Sleep apnea is not just something that affects older adults anymore. Experts say they're seeing more younger people being diagnosed with sleep apnea.
Obesity is more prevalent in our younger population, and we have patients as young as 18 years old and 19 years old with very severe sleep apnea.
That's Dr. Pranita Gumeyer, a sleep specialist at St. Joseph's Health in Syracuse. She says if you suspect you have sleep apnea, set up an appointment with your doctor to get a sleep study. You may need a CPAP machine to help you get a good night's sleep. Verizon customers will be getting a $20 credit after Wednesday's nearly day-long outage. In a statement posted on social media last night, Verizon said it did not meet the standard of excellence that customers expect. Customers will be receiving a text message when that credit is available. The outage was blamed on a bad server somewhere in New Jersey. Pennsylvania hunters could soon see big changes to the start of deer season. That story from Family Life's Brian Query.
The Pennsylvania Board of Game Commissioners will consider proposals for the 2026-2027 hunting seasons at their upcoming meetings. One option would move the start of firearms deer season to the Saturday before Thanksgiving instead of the Saturday after. Game officials say an earlier opening could give families and traveling hunters more flexibility. The board will also review changes to bear season timing and possible limits on spring turkey hunting, including allowing Sunday hunting and reducing the spring gobbler bag limit. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Brian. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob Tage Thompson brought his A game last night in Buffalo. He turned the hat trick as part of a 5-point night to lead the Sabres over Montreal 5-3. Josh Doan had a goal and an assist, and Alex Tuch also lit the lamp as the surging Sabres improved to 15-2 in their last 17 games. In Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby had a goal and an assist and became just the 8th player in NHL history with at least 19 50-point seasons. And the Penguins won the game as well, 6-3 over the Flyers. Ilya Sorokin made 35 saves for his season-leading 5th shutout, and Anthony Duclair scored the lone goal of the contest in the third period as the Islanders went west and took down the Oilers 1-0. Other winners on the ice, the Blue Jackets, Sharks, Bruins, Jets, Flames, Mammoth, and Golden Knights. In the NBA, Jimmy Butler scored 32, Steph Curry had 27, and Moses Moody drained 7 3-pointers to finish with 21 points. And Golden State knocked off the Knicks 126-113. McBride and Anunoby both had 25 for New York. Elsewhere, the Magic, Pistons, Celtics, Thunder, Spurs, Mavs, Trailblazers, and Hornets all scored enough points to pick up victories. And in baseball, the Dodgers have done it again. The two-time defending World Series champs have added another big name to their star-studded roster. They have inked Kyle Tucker to a 4-year, $240 million contract. That is a look at sports.
All right, thank you, Randy. Still to come, the Capital Connection crew is back for our first show of 2026. We're talking Hochul's State of the State speech, efforts to save girls' sports, and why marriage matters so much in 2026. Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire with New York Families are coming up right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. January 23rd is the 52nd March for Life in Washington, D.C. Over the years, thousands have braved the cold to stand for the voiceless children in the crosshairs of abortion on demand. This year's theme, Life is a Gift, contrasts those who see all preborn lives as being inherently valuable and those who see the value of human beings as being determined by convenience. It was back in 1974, just a year after the infamous Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, that a small group realized they needed to speak out on behalf of preborn lives. The March for Life is one of the most significant ongoing political acts in all of American history. In fact, it's difficult to think of another movement in our history with such a consistent testimony. Each year, tens of thousands of Christians and like-minded people show up and remind the world that life is sacred. Back in the 1970s, many evangelicals considered abortion to be a Catholic issue and therefore not their cause. And then came the notable efforts of people like Francis Schaeffer. And so more Protestants awakened to the realities of abortion and the need to defend life. Since then, the movement has attempted to lay the groundwork for a culture of life through speeches, rallies, and training. And contrary to the claims of pro-abortion propagandists, pro-lifers have built networks to provide real help for pregnant women in crisis and for their children through thousands of pregnancy centers throughout the country. This work made the Choose Life slogan practical. On the political front, the struggles to defend life have been palpable. The occasional small gains that were made prior to the Dobbs decision were just no match for the judicial overreach of Roe v. Wade. Whenever a pro-life law was passed, it would be either shot down or seriously mitigated by the courts. And Roe also provided a lot of cover for pro-life politicians in name only. But after years of activism and prayer, the Supreme Court ruled that Roe was unconstitutional in 2022. The aftermath of that has been mixed. The Dobbs decision did not make abortion illegal, but it did mean that after years of hope and anticipation, pro-life communities were free from the immoral stranglehold of Roe and could now enact laws to defend life. Several states, like Tennessee and Missouri, already had laws in place to protect the unborn. Others, like Ohio and Kansas, put life and death on the ballot. And time after time, voters chose the latter. Meanwhile, pro-abortion states like Colorado and New York advanced draconian laws to enshrine abortion as some kind of sacred right. And today, the pro-life cause faces opposition from within both major political parties. The Democratic Party has made abortion a non-negotiable, celebrated plank of their platform. And for many within the Republican Party, the call to protect life is just seen as a nuisance, the kind that threatens the rest of the platform. Pro-lifers owe President Trump a great deal for the court appointees that delivered the Dobbs decision, but he's also proven an unreliable ally. Though ostensibly pro-life, the Trump administration has promoted under-regulated IVF and has also widened the availability of chemical abortion. And so this movement must continue. Events like the March for Life are a good place to start. The marches that I have attended in the past were both inspiring and instructive. If you can't make the national march in D.C. this month, go to the website and see if your state has its own state March for Life later this year. Continuing to move the needle on behalf of life will require individual courage, but also movement-level efforts and shrewd political maneuvering. All aspects are required if this decades-long effort to create a culture of life is to eventually succeed, in which abortion, infanticide, and euthanasia are all swept into the dustbin of history and made both illegal and unthinkable. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, thanks, John. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast. The call for this afternoon: clouds, sunny breaks, a bit of snow and flurries returning to parts of western New York and northwest Pennsylvania, with high temperatures in the mid-20s to low 30s. It will be cloudy tonight, tomorrow, a little snow at times. Low temps tonight, 20s. Temperatures rising overnight into the 30s tomorrow. But it's colder Sunday. Clouds, sun, flurries, and areas of lake snow. High temperatures Sunday, mostly in the 20s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. It is Friday, folks. Congratulations, you made it. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. During the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, guys, it has been a while, but I want to say Happy New Year to you both. This is our first show of 2026. Jason, I want to begin with the governor's State of the State speech back on Tuesday. You know, anybody who thinks this wasn't a political speech, all they had to do was listen for about 5 minutes. That's all the time it took her to mention Donald Trump. Seems like he is very much on her radar screen this election year. Is that an effective strategy for her?
You know, in New York, the popularity of Donald Trump is not very high, and so many Democrats, including Governor Kathy Hochul, are planning on running against Donald Trump and what is happening at the federal level, and that may prove some benefit for her. It demonstrates how in an election year, though, people do tend to run towards the things that are popular. We saw a lot of that in the governor's State of the State address, which is kind of ironic because that's how President Donald Trump was elected in the first place, with unpopulist messaging.
Yeah, you could tell this suburban soccer mom. It's cliche, but that was who she was talking to in that speech. We'll jump back into some of those issues in a bit, but Michael, wow, what a week for you. Inside the Supreme Court for oral arguments in those two cases, Idaho and West Virginia, the effort to save girls' sports for girls. Based on what your legal team heard in court this week, are you confident that the justices will uphold these trans bans in West Virginia and Idaho?
Yeah, two of our attorneys were in the courtroom for that hearing. We did file a friend of the court brief in that case. The briefing that I received from them afterwards, as they listened to the sort of legal language that went by, as well as some of the craziness that went by, indicates that they think we'll get a majority and that the girls' sports will be protected both in those states, and that it will allow states to have these prohibitions against males who identify as females playing on those girls' sports teams. So that's a real plus.
We'll see how the court rules, because a lot of states have similar laws that would be affected by this. Jason, let's go back to New York. The governor was kind of interesting in the room there on Tuesday, in the egg, as they call it. A man who wasn't there, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. I don't remember, maybe it's never happened, where a lieutenant governor was running against a governor in a primary in New York. It might be a first. Correct me if I'm wrong there. How much does he complicate the governor's reelection efforts this year?
Well, you know, looking at what's going to happen this year, it means the governor is going to have to go through a primary, and that is something that I don't think she wanted to do. Part of the problems with primaries is it tends to push parties to the extremes of their party. And so if you're the Democrat, you're now moving further and further to the left to try to win the primary, which can complicate things in the general election. So in this case, you have the governor who's walking a tightrope. She has Mayor Mamdani down in New York City. She has her own lieutenant governor who's pushing her to the left, and yet she's trying to run towards the middle and a more centrist messaging so she can win the independent voter. It could complicate things significantly for her later this year.
Michael, the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday is fast approaching. It's actually this weekend, this Sunday, Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. We've got the big National March for Life coming up in Washington, which you feature so prominently predominantly, I think you've told me before, no state in the country sends more marchers to D.C. than Pennsylvania. And there's more good news. There were about 2,400 fewer abortions in Pennsylvania in 2024 compared to the year earlier. Is this a trend that you think will continue? And if so, what do you think is driving this decline in the overall abortion rate?
Well, and it's even a question about how definitive the decline is. The Pennsylvania Department of Health collects these numbers. They don't provide any specific insights on why the numbers went down or in some years why they go up. What most likely is the cause of the drop in numbers here in Pennsylvania may not be an actual drop, but the increase in the number of telehealth chemical abortions through the abortion pill, which oftentimes are not reported to the state at all.
Well, we were writing about it online, and we'll let folks know that website at the end. Jason, the other guy that could throw a monkey wrench into this year's election is Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. You're going to hear that name a lot this year, the likely GOP opponent. He is pro-choice, and it makes no bones about it in this gubernatorial race. Is that going to matter this year? Will his position on the life issue alienate social conservatives and say, hey, we're going to just sit this one out in 2026?
Yeah, I think it does. There's going to be some challenge for the Nassau County Executive to try to secure the base. A large portion of the Republican base is pro-life. And I think it's really going to be a burden of proof on Mr. Blakeman to make the case to why he should be elected if he holds those views.
Yeah, I was looking at some stats. The Heritage Foundation, Michael, came out with a new campaign this year, Make America Strong by Making Families Strong. And here's just a few statistics. Since the 1960s, the marriage rate has been declining every year in this country. A third of young people today will never marry. The average age for a first-time marriage has increased 8 years for women and 7 years for men in just the past 25 years. Why does marriage matter, and how can we make marriage more attractive, not just in Pennsylvania, but in New York and across the country?
Those are really troubling statistics. There's a lot of different factors that play into it. One of them is just a denigration of marriage, the sort of dilution of marriage, and having, all these different institutions called marriage and many different things called family. When we look at creation order, and it's a male and a female, and there's a purpose behind it. That's the best health, education, and welfare institution ever devised for children. And the other part of it is this notion in our society that I think, kind of goes right to the notion of materialism, that until I get all my ducks in a row and I have the job and the finances in the house and all of these things in place before I choose to get married, sometimes that train sort of leaves the station when you're left holding the bag, as it were. And it may be a struggle, maybe a challenge, but the things you learn through it make it much better for you.
Yeah, that's why we do this show, is to strengthen marriages. You mentioned it is hard work, but it is worth it. Jason, I would be remiss not to bring up what we've been witnessing on the streets of Minneapolis. I have a nephew who lives in Minneapolis, said he can't even go outside now. It's so bad. The mayhem there, the lack of law and order, the anarchy on the streets of a major American city. Governor Hochul announced a plan that would allow New Yorkers to sue federal officers, ICE agents making arrests in New York. What kinds of legal battles is this going to cause between New York and the federal government if this standoff between Trump and Hochul gets worse?
Yeah, going back to some of our earlier conversation where the governor has to appease some folks on the left, that's going to drive a lot of the agenda this year, and immigration is a big part of that and how that is handled. So I expect that the Attorney General, Letitia James, Governor Kathy Hochul, and the Democratic Party will very much find themselves in court this year against the federal government on multiple issues regarding this issue of immigration. It's really going to be a fight, and it should not be. I mean, we should not be at a place to where we have to be at odds over these issues. There is a place for legal immigration in our country, and I think we as Christians, as conservatives, recognize that, want to embrace that, but we also cannot have the lawlessness that we have in the land. Somehow we've got to find a way to back away from the precipice and get back to a country that believes in law and order, and also opening arms to those who want to come and be a part of the American dream.
Yeah, and good people, Michael, can agree to disagree on how that was handled with that mother, Renee Good, and how that whole situation came about. We can agree to disagree on that, but as Jason mentioned, the law and order component of this, if we continually dehumanize these federal officers of the law who are just doing their jobs. How do you, as a person of faith, because I struggle with this so mightily, watching that video over and over again, how does a Christian reconcile immigration enforcement with Christ's message of compassion and mercy and all of it?
I think about a passage in the book of Acts, chapter 17, which it says, God has established the nations and set their boundaries in time. The existence of national boundaries is something that has existed and that God had a hand in. So it's the role of government to defend its people. The Bible speaks clearly about to punish evildoers and to commend those who do right. And so the role of government is different than what individuals are to do and how they're to embrace those who are in need and all of those sorts of things. And to be able to see those differences and to understand those differences, to express compassion and to care for one another is something that we as Christians are called to do, but to also understand that there is a rightful role for government to undertake and that we should not be obstacles of that, but actually be participating in obeying the civil authorities.
Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Is a good word to live by. Hey, guys, we've been a lot of places. If you want to learn more about Governor Hochul's State of the State speech, a lot in it. Jason, you're writing about it. Where can folks find you online?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
And the March for Life is fast approaching in Washington. I know, Michael, you'll be sending busloads of people there this year for that event. If folks want to learn more, where can they find you online?
PAFamily.org.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Capital Connection comes your way Fridays during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A system that brought more than a foot of snow to parts of western New York and just a few flakes to southeastern Pennsylvania, moving away now. And in its wake, there'll be a moderation in temperatures heading into the weekend, but a bit of snow as well. Arctic air, though, is poised to return. We're keeping our eyes on the East Coast for a storm as well. The call for this afternoon: clouds, sunny breaks, a bit of snow and flurries returning to parts of western New York and northwest Pennsylvania, with high temperatures in the mid-20s to low 30s. It will be cloudy tonight, tomorrow, a little snow at times. Low temps tonight, 20s. Temperatures rising overnight into the 30s tomorrow. But it's colder Sunday. Clouds, sun, flurries, and areas of lake snow. High temperatures Sunday, mostly in the 20s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. And finally at noon, Floridians woke up today to find frozen iguanas on the ground. Imagine their surprise. Actually, it's not all that uncommon in the Sunshine State when temperatures dip to below freezing like they did today. Iguanas live in trees in South Florida and can become stunned and lose their grip in frigid weather like they did this morning, hence the expression, raining iguanas. Anyone who sees an iguana passed out on the pavement should leave it be. Wildlife biologist Seth Britton has the following advice to anybody who'd try to pick up a frozen iguana.
I don't recommend doing that because they do scratch, they do whip you with their tail. I got whipped across the forehead once and it cut my forehead, so it's something that you just don't mess with them.
Don't mess with them. Britton says frozen iguanas usually recover once they've warmed up. A lot like some of us. And that's our world. The world we live in. Friday, January 16th. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report. Heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.